Am I the asshole for telling my wife I'm not giving up our dog for her pregnancy?
My wife and I are expecting our first child in a few months. We've been together for a couple years, and when we met, I already had my dog, Lettuce, I got when he was a puppy. He's 9 now and has been my best friend through everything. Lately, my wife has been pushing me to get rid of Lettuce before the baby arrives. She claims she's worried about allergies, germs around a newborn. Lettuce has never been aggressive, never bitten anyone, and is actually terrified of loud noises, so he'll probably hide from the baby. I suggested training or extra precautions, but she says she just doesn't want the risk. I put my foot down and said Lettuce isn't going anywhere. Now she's acting like I'm choosing the dog over her and our baby. I told her that if this was a sudden allergy or genuine danger, we'd work through it, but it feels like she just doesn't like him anymore. Now her family is calling me controlling and immature and saying I need to prioritize my child. But Lettuce is family too, and I refuse to throw him away just because my wife changed her mind.
Am I the asshole for refusing to give up my dog? Am I the asshole for refusing to be the best man at my twin brother's wedding after he proposed to my ex?
So, I, 27 male, have an identical twin brother, Ryan.
Growing up, we were super close, always doing everything together.
That was until a few years ago when things started to get weird between us because of, well,
dating drama.
About 3 years ago, I was in a serious relationship with my ex, Emily, 26 female. We dated for nearly 2 years and even talked about getting engaged. Things ended suddenly when she told me she wasn't ready for a serious commitment. I was heartbroken, but I respected her decision and moved on, or so I thought. Fast forward to last month, Ryan dropped a bomb on me, he's engaged to Emily.
Yes, my Emily. The one I was still quietly getting over.
I had no idea they were even dating. He told me they started seeing each other about a year after we broke up and kept it a secret because they didn't want to hurt me.
Yeah. Great job on that one. Now, here's where it gets worse. Ryan asked me to be his best man.
I was in complete shock. I told him there's no way I could stand up there and watch him marry someone I was in love with, let alone celebrate it. He got defensive and said I was being petty, that I needed to grow up and let go of the past. Our parents are backing him up, saying love works in mysterious ways and that I should support my brother's happiness.
Meanwhile, some friends think I'm justified and that it's insane he even asked me. Ryan and I haven't spoken much since the argument, and the wedding planning is underway.
I feel like I'm stuck between being seen as the bitter, jealous twin or losing my relationship with my brother entirely.
Am I the asshole for refusing to be his best man? Would I be an asshole if I didn't even attend the wedding?
Am I the asshole for kissing my boyfriend in front of his ex when I didn't even realize the ex was there? I've been a long-time lurker, but I really need some advice on this. Me, 27, male, and my boyfriend Jamie, 28, male, have been dating for over a year and he's legit my favorite person. Before we were together, he dated the son of family friends, Don, 28, male. They dated when they were teenagers, and broke up once uni hit. Jamie was the one who initiated the breakup, and he told me Don seemed to take it fine, but he'd had his suspicions over the years that he never fully got over it. Jamie was very open with me that he still has to see him at family functions, and asked me if I was okay with that. I'm not a control freak. I told him I trust him, and when I was eventually invited to family things too, besides one awkward meeting, we steered clear of each other. A couple days ago, we were at Jamie's mom's, 64, female, birthday party. The weather was slightly warmer, so we were all hanging out in the backyard. Jamie had his arm around my waist, promise this is relevant, while we were just talking to each other. Being very in love with my boyfriend, leaned in and gave him a kiss at some point. Not some big sloppy makeout, just a 5-second thing. Nothing crazy, right? What I didn't see before I leaned in, was Don standing near us with Jamie's sister, Lana, 25, female. When I saw them after I pulled away from Jamie, they immediately started whispering to each other and scowling at me. I gave them a funny look and took a very confused Jamie back inside. He asked me what was up and I told him about Don and Lana, and he rolled his eyes. Lana, with her perfect timing, came inside too and told me in a very tight voice that we were being dicks for kissing and groping each other right in front of Don. I was so shocked as me and Lana always got along, but I couldn't even get a word in before Jamie got upset with her, saying that he didn't care if Don was still feeling like a bruised peach after so many years. He towed me away after that and I was trying not to giggle as we just enjoyed the rest of the party. When we got home, Jamie had a bunch of messages from his family about how disrespectful I was, and that they wanted both of us to apologize before the next family event. We're both pretty weirded out, and I just need some outside opinions. Was I really that wrong for kissing him?
Am I the asshole for expecting to occasionally drive a car I helped pay for, but my girlfriend says it's hers now? My girlfriend, 34, female, and I, 36, a male, have been together for 5 years. When she moved to my city 2 years ago, she needed a car. At the time, she was financially stable, making $100,000 a year and renting out a home she owns for extra income, but she still asked for my help affording the car. Wanting to support her, I put down $1,500 for the down payment and paid $400 a month toward a $525 car payment for 2 years, totaling over $10,000. While she used the car full-time, I had my own older car and didn't drive hers regularly. This year, she has fully taken over the payments. Now, since she's the only one paying for it, she has decided that I can't drive it at all anymore, not even when she's away for 1 to 2 weeks at a time for work. Her reasoning? I'm paying for it now, so it's mine. I brought up that if the roles were reversed, I would still acknowledge her past contributions and allow her to use it occasionally. But she dismisses that and says she's just setting financial boundaries. For context, we also bought a house together last year, but it's only in her name, even though we split the mortgage 50-50. When we bought it, she told me, "This is my moment," which rubbed me the wrong way because I was equally contributing to the payments. This isn't just about the car, it feels like a bigger issue of financial fairness and control. She was fine accepting financial help when she needed it, but now that she's secure, she's acting like my contributions never happened. Am I the asshole for thinking I should still have some access to a car I helped pay for? Or is she being selfish by rewriting history and making financial decisions that only benefit her?
Am I the asshole for letting my kid get hurt on an adventure and now my ex wants full custody? So, my kids and I went on a little adventure. Just a drive down some dirt roads, exploring, making memories. At one point, I spotted an old mine up on a hill, rusty equipment, history frozen in time. It looked cool, so we parked and started climbing up to check it out. We couldn't get inside, but it was still worth the trip. The kids were having fun, and I thought it was one of those little moments they'd look back on fondly. And then, the way back down. I told my 5-year-old not to run. I warned him. But, being 5, he took off anyway. And, of course, he slipped, loose rocks, bad footing, the whole thing. He scraped up his hands and knees pretty badly, and then, to make things even worse, he landed in a cactus. Cue tears, pain, and me suddenly in full-on crisis mode. I carried him and my toddler back to the car, got all the little thorns out, cleaned up most of the scrapes, but one gash on his shin was deep enough to need stitches. I put some butterfly strips on it, had my oldest keep a towel pressed against it, and drove straight to urgent care. As soon as I had phone signal, I called my ex-husband to let him know what happened. Told him our son needed stitches, that I was taking him in, and that I'd video call once we were at urgent care so he could see everything. And I did exactly that. He was on video the whole time while our son got his stitches. I figured that was the end of it. But nope. He calls me later, after work, and just goes off. Tells me I'm a terrible mom for letting our kid get hurt, that this is proof I'm irresponsible, and good thing we haven't signed the divorce papers yet, because now he's going to push for full custody. Which, by the way, is ridiculous considering he's seen the kids one day since Thanksgiving. So, am I the asshole for letting my kid explore and handling an accident like any normal parent would? Editing to add 'cause I'm tired of explaining this over and over and over. I grew up doing this. My dad still takes us to do this when we go camping with him. I was also 2 semesters away from completing my BS in archaeology and geology. X was afraid D make more money than him and belittled me until I stopped going. I'm not an idiot. If the mine was open we wouldn't have gone more than 10 or 20 feet if I could find the vein I was trying to show the kids. If I couldn't find it we would have left. If it was unstable we wouldn't have gone in either. This was a weekend activity. I did everything weekend growing up, not new at this whatsoever.
Am I the asshole for telling my neglectful father's wife, I don't care if her unborn kid's my father's, I don't owe her a thing? My father and his wife have a 25-year on and off relationship and marriage. My father had me 19 male with someone else and his wife had a daughter, 16-ish now, with someone else. At one time, the 4 of us lived together for about 4 years. I was neglected badly in that time, and was eventually removed by Child Protection Service and placed with my aunts. They helped me get back on track after a really shitty time. My mother was an addict and wasn't any better, and the only reason I lived with my father is because she OD'd and died. The wife's daughter wasn't really treated much better, but she got a little more, and she wasn't removed like I was. I had nothing more to do with them. But then a few weeks ago, his wife DM'd me on Facebook. My father's in jail, and she claims she's expecting his baby, and she needs me to help. She wanted me to move in and help pay bills, and help with the baby, and make sure she has support for her delivery. I ignored her and blocked the account, but then another account which is clearly also hers DM'd me and told me I was going to have a sibling, and I should do something to make sure the baby's okay. I told her I didn't believe for 1 second the baby is his, but even if the kid is, I don't owe her a thing, and that I wasn't going to reply again. I blocked that account, and I didn't respond when more messages came from different accounts. But she's basically telling me I should care if the baby is his, and I should be a better man than him. To me, this kid, whether they're his or not, has nothing to do with me, and I'm not the father, so I feel like I have zero responsibility. But maybe I am the asshole for feeling that way and saying what I did. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for breaking up with my fiancée and also refusing to speak to my family because they defend her? I, 31, male, broke up with my ex-fiancée, 31, female, about 6 months ago. I had been with her for 6 years and it was going extremely well. We were due to marry in a few months and I was excited to have children with her. Honestly, I do still love and miss her, but trust is important too, and I don't think I could trust her again. My ex-fiancée was very well loved by my parents and siblings. Anyway, one day my then fiancée thought it would be funny to prank me, so she got one of her work friends, who I had never met, to knock on our door one day, and when I answered the door, this man who she knew from work claimed that he was married to my fiancée. He claimed that he had married her a couple of years before I met her, and that she had walked out on him and was now planning to commit bigamy with me. She acted like it was true and pretended to be shocked to see him before they revealed it was a prank. As soon as this was over, I told my now ex-fiancée that it was not funny and I didn't think I could ever trust her again, so I left her the same day. Anyway, my family, who was very fond of her, tried to convince me to get back with her. They were angry with me and accused me of overreacting, and my parents in particular claimed that what she did was funny and I should have just laughed it off. I basically told them all that unless they would accept that I did the right thing and apologize to me, I wouldn't associate with them. This was 6 months ago, and I have staunchly refused any attempt from my family to reconnect, even though they are upset that I'm not speaking to them. I have continued to maintain that if they want me to forgive them, they need to accept that I did not overreact and I would like them to apologize, but they have still refused to do so. So I'm still not speaking to them.
Am I the asshole for refusing to spend another dime on stepkids and stepgrands? I, 38, female, and my husband, 50, male, have been married for 10 years and have a 1-year-old daughter together. He has a son, 30, male, and daughter, 28, female, from a previous marriage. Since my husband and I have been together, I have always bought his children birthday presents, Christmas presents, and gifts/cards every holiday. They have always made snood comments about me being too festive. But my love language is gift-giving. While they both have children now, his son has 3 children under the age of 5, and his daughter has twin 2-year-old daughters. This past Christmas, his daughter and her husband hosted our family Christmas party. During the gift exchange, each household exchanged the gift they bought for the other households. For context, his children have never bought Christmas presents for me, which I am fine with. I have always been the one to purchase the gifts for my stepchildren and my step-grandchildren. My husband gives the adult kids gift cards. So while the gifts were being passed out, it quickly became apparent that this year they not only didn't buy anything for me, but not his for my 1-year-old daughter, their half-sister. So everyone at the party had gifts to open: my husband, my stepson and his wife, their 3 sons, my stepdaughter, her husband, and twin daughters, had all bought for each other, and I had bought for all of them. And not one person bought anything for their baby sister. I gathered my things and my daughter and we left. Afterwards, I told my husband that I had never been made feel like a part of the family, and that's one thing, but for them to exclude their own half-sister who is part of their blood is a complete different thing. I told him I will never spend a dime on his family because they are not mine. Also, they decided to do a family photo shoot and didn't include my daughter. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for wanting a divorce after my husband lied to me about buying a transmission and used me in his lie? My husband and I have had a wishy-washy relationship since the beginning. Mostly because I told him I don't want to be in a relationship with a liar, and before we got married, I caught him in a lie and told him I would end our relationship if I ever caught him again. Fast forward 4 years, we are married and have 2 kids. He was a prior Marine and told me his car group buddy, that was a prior Marine, had just died from an apparent suicide and he had just been in the works with buying a transmission from him. He told me this long story about how this guy was in a relationship with this girl that used him and when he died, he left a will that he had just written prior to his death leaving everything to her. Before he passed, this guy and his chick were going to move and needed to store one of his cars at our house until he could come back for it. Since it was still there after his passing, the girl had asked the deceased guy's friends group where this car went. She contacted my husband and he told her that he was given the car in a trade with other car parts and that he had paid $6,500 for this transmission that was sitting in the dead guy's house. I was mad that he didn't get a receipt or anything before this guy passed and it was strange how it all went down. Something just didn't sit right with me, but I couldn't put my finger on it at the moment. So for the next few weeks, my husband has been talking back and forth with the chick about the car and the transmission that he paid for and was trying to get it from her possession. It was hard since she had just moved from the area and was trying to sort though an estate 900 miles away. Since this guy was a big car guy, he had a house full of car parts that this girl had to sort though. My husband saw the transmission listed on FB because the girl told him that he needed to prove in some way that the car part was truly his or would try and sell it like the original guy did. My husband kept messaging her back and forth and was very adamant about getting this part for his car. He was looking on FB to see when she would be back in the area, that way if she went to the house, he would be able to meet her there and grab the transmission. We live about an hour from this guy's house, so coordination of when this chick could have been there becomes harder. He essentially tracked her whereabouts through posts she posted publicly on FB, and when she was in the area, he was going to go get the part. He told me that the car that was left behind on our property was going to be a car he fixed up for me to drive, although I really didn't care. The girl was asking about the car and had said that it was hers and she wanted it. Somewhere along the line, my husband had told me that he actually didn't pay the $6,500 for the transmission, but that's what it was worth and he really only said $2,000+. This didn't change my anger towards the fact he never got a receipt from this guy and the whole situation would have been gone over quickly if not for this. Fast forward again, and the girl is on her way to being in town. I told him to just trade the stupid car for that transmission and just be done with it. It had been dragging on so long and I'm leaving out much detail of his back and forth to save my fingers the write-up. She was okay with the deal, he loaded up the car and went and scooped up the transmission. I was home and happy this whole ordeal was finally over and I didn't have to hear about it anymore, about how terrible this chick was to this dude. After he gets home from getting this transmission, I'm outside loading my son in the car to take him to Grandpa's house for the day. As I'm standing there saying my goodbyes to him, he leans over and whispers in my ear, "I never actually paid for that transmission, I just wanted you to think that I did, so when we went to confront this girl you didn't hesitate in backing me up." Smiled at me as he pulled his hug away like, "Isn't that great, we screwed this chick over." The wheels in my brain started spinning out of control as I sat in the car. I smiled, kissed him and drove out the driveway. All the info about this car part and the details started overwhelming me while I was driving. By the time I got to Grandpa's house, which is about 15 away, I was shaking so bad it was hard to fake a smile to his family. I dropped my son off and called my husband to make more clear about this whole car part story before I completely just lost it. He involved me so deeply into his lie and used me as pawn to get a free transmission from his dead car buddy who just committed suicide over this chick, and you want me to lie to her face for the sake of your own gain? I think I cried and screamed so much, because he crossed a major boundary in an unrepairable way. I don't know how to look at him the same since we have other things that are troubling besides this situation. How can I be with someone that bluntly lied to my face for months over this personal gain, all for what? To top it off, he could have afforded to just pay the price she was asking and he'd done with it all from the beginning. I told him the depths that he lied to me was on the level of a serial killer. I no longer want to be in my marriage, because it just feels like everything he says now is a straight-up lie, especially, "I love you." Am I the asshole for wanting a divorce because my husband lied to me over a car part, amongst other things? Am I the asshole for being upset that my mom still wants her ex to take care of my baby sister, despite everything he's done? I, 15 female, have a complicated history with my mom's ex, let's call him Mark. They were together for 5 years, but their relationship ended badly when I was 9 because of something he did. One night, they got into a heated argument. My 5 to 6-year-old sister and I were supposed to be asleep, but I had to use the bathroom. Their bedroom was next to it, so I could hear them yelling. I decided to wait it out on the couch. When the shouting finally stopped, I went to use the bathroom, but when I came out, Mark was leaving the room, and my mom was on the floor with a bloody nose. The corner of the bed sheet was stained with blood. My mom got up and covered my ears as Mark kept yelling before leaving the house. Later, we found out he had broken her nose. After they broke up, Mark wasn't in our lives much. My mom eventually moved on and got engaged to someone else, a really good guy. They started dating when I was 13 to 14, and I was really happy for her. But right around December 2022, just before Christmas, he passed away unexpectedly. A few months later, to my surprise, my mom started seeing Mark again. They weren't officially together, but she got pregnant. Mark denied the baby was his the entire time. When my baby sister was born, I was thrilled to have a little sibling, but Mark barely stepped up. He would come over occasionally to see her, but he was also dating other women while my mom was still hoping to fix things with him. Around Christmas, 2024, my mom realized he wasn't going to change, so she finally ended things for good. I'm 15 now and have been since December 15th, and Mark is still not taking responsibility. He barely takes my baby sister, yet my mom keeps getting upset that he doesn't step up. Recently, I found out he's on drugs, and I told my mom I don't think he should be around the baby. But she insists he wouldn't do anything like that near her. What upsets me the most is how she keeps making excuses for him. Anytime I used to bring up what he did to her, breaking her nose, she brushed it off. She would always say they were both drunk, and that she headbutted him first to knock some sense into him because he was holding a plastic knife to his wrist, saying he wanted to be with his grandmother. She would say he only headbutted her back in response, but I don't see how that justifies anything. Another thing that really bothers me is that whenever Mark was coming over, my mom kept losing things that belonged to her late fiancé. Even though he hasn't been around since last Christmas, just today, she realized her engagement ring from her late fiancé is missing. We suspect Mark stole it because he never wanted her holding on to anything that reminded her of her late fiancé. At this point, I feel like I have every right to be upset. Mark was abusive, manipulative, and completely unreliable, yet my mom still wants him to take my baby sister. I don't understand how she can still expect him to be a father after everything he's done. But at the same time, I know this is her life, and she'll make her own choices. On top of everything, I'm really upset with my mom because of the way she talks about her bad relationships and taste in men in front of me and my now 11-year-old sister. She often shares negative things about past relationships, including the drama with Mark, and it's made me feel like men aren't trustworthy. I've started to feel like I have a skewed view of relationships, even though my boyfriend is great, and I don't want to think like this about him. It's especially uncomfortable when she talks like that in front of my younger sister. It feels like it's affecting how we see relationships, and I just don't think it's healthy. So now I'm wondering, am I the asshole for being upset?
I've received kids' toys and books for my birthday. My wife, 42 of 11 years and 2 boys, 2 and 5 organized a few presents for my birthday today, 42. I said that I wanted something special for me, and it didn't even have to be a gift, maybe a card and something small than to go out for dinner and drinks and have some alone time. This morning I was pleasantly treated to some gifts hurriedly stuffed into a bag. Upon opening them I kind of lost it. The gifts were 2 Bluey children's books, 2 Nintendo Switch games, Mario Party and Switch Sports, some Switch accessories and a children's dumpling making kit. I am a chef of many years, am I the asshole for losing my shit? I think birthdays should be about the individual on that day. I mean, it's supposed to be a day where you at least get to eat cake guilt-free. I would have been over the moon with some socks, boxer shorts, and some kids' drawings on a mug or something goofy like that. Looking at the gifts here, there is not one thing that's just for me. When pressed, wife said they are so you can use them to play with the kids, and when asked why there wasn't anything specifically for me, the response came back, the boys wanted stuff they could do with you. She is working right now, remote from home on a Sunday, and I am looking after the kids till she finishes at 1 p.m. So it's a little difficult to play and such and keep a happy demeanor. The anger has subsided, but now I feel sad and guilty for wanting a day to be about me. Edit and update, so many mixed responses and comments. It's been overwhelming. So, to try and make the best of the situation, I opened the dumpling kit and started to make bao buns with the boys. Needless to say, they were excited for the first 10 minutes but soon moved on to other games soon after my wife finished work. She and I had long discussion outside away from the boys, and she apologized profusely, stating she had all the best intentions and knew that I was planning to buy these things for the boys' birthdays later on in the year. In response to if there was another present later or something planned. There was nothing planned to do anything for the rest of the day except head to the pub for a quiet dinner. So being a hot day, I took us down to the beach, swam with the kids, and we picked up some donuts, in lieu of a cake, and pizza on the way home to have a little celebration. Now everyone has gone to bed and I'm just chilling with the dog listening to the thunderstorm outside. Might have a cheeky rum. I may not have received the best start to the day, but thanks to all who helped make it better. Am I the asshole for ruining a day? So I have 2 sisters. The older one is pregnant, let's call her Tisha, and a younger one, let's call her Petrisha. Yesterday Petrisha said that we should climb a hill the next day, since her friend works in a cottage on top. Tisha was all for it, but I had a lot of work to do and I told them straight away that I can't go since I'm tired cause I have a 60-hour work week behind me and I want to sleep finally. They brushed it off and said that we are going anyways. Today that woke me up and told me to get dressed. Again, I told them that I won't go since it's the first time in over a month that I can sleep without an alarm. They were both mad and Patricia called her friend and told him that we aren't coming cause I ruined the entire day. I'm mean and stuff. When I tried to call my mom to ask her what should I do, she started screaming at me not to disturb Tisha cause it can affect her baby. Now the entire family is mad at me and I can't sleep. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for not dating a single dad, even if he's a victim? I, 19 female, recently went on a date with a guy, Ben, 25 male, after meeting through mutual friends. He was nice enough at first, but I found out he has 2 kids. One is 7 male, which means he became a dad at 18 with a 19-year-old, and the other is 2 male. I've always known I don't want to date someone with kids. There was nothing wrong with him as a person, but I just couldn't see myself in that situation long term. I'm not particularly a fan of kids. If I have my own someday, we'll see, but that's not happening anytime soon. However, I don't think I could handle being a stepmother. After our first date, he messaged me saying he really liked me and wanted to see me again. I politely told him I didn't think it would work out. That's when he started pressuring me for a reason. He said he thought we clicked so well, we had the same interests, and he didn't understand why I was saying no. I tried to keep it vague at first, but he kept pushing, so I finally told him I wasn't comfortable dating someone with kids. That set him off. He started saying things like how he thought younger girls liked experienced men and that I was being judgmental. Then he said he didn't plan for any of this to happen and asked, "Don't you think I'm a victim?" I was just a dumb kid when I had my first, and the second one was a surprise. I don't even see his kids that often, and that we wouldn't have any problems. I was baby trapped. I have it way harder than you. At that point, I was done. I didn't reply to him anymore. The mutual friends who set us up, he told them. They said I was being judgmental. Nobody these days cares about how many baby mamas someone has, or about being a stepmom. I told them I just don't see myself in that position. My friends said they understand, but that I should still apologize to Ben. So, should I do it? I don't think I'm wrong, but my friends say my apologizing would make peace for their relationship with Ben too. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for refusing to help my sister with her children, and telling her she chose her shitty life so now she has to deal with it? Hi Reddit. My whole family thinks I'm an asshole, but I disagree. Or maybe think it's justified. When my sister 26 female and I 24 female were kids, we hated each other. My sister was very hard to get along with, and she never had any friends as a result of this. She's the type of person who always thinks she's right, and can never apologize or admit when she's wrong. As an adult, she still has no friends. She decided to drink the trad wife Kool-Aid. She met her husband in college, got pregnant, and dropped out. They have 4 children under the age of 8 together, and the youngest is a quadriplegic due to spinal damage and a birth defect. I just finished law school, and I'm starting my career. My husband already has an established career, and we're dinks. We don't intend on having any children. My sister has historically talked down to us at family events. She says we don't even understand what we're missing out on, we'll never know what true and unconditional love is, etc. Very condescending, as always. Lately, her and her husband have been fighting. Apparently, per my mother, he has never let her access his income. He gives her cash for groceries. The bills and stuff have always been in his name. Apparently he's been cheating too. My sister has asked for me to watch her kids on the weekends so she can save up money to be able to evaluate her options, aka leave her husband. When she came to me and asked this, I asked her, "But isn't being a traditional wife your calling? You've told us this several times. You must have forgotten, but traditional wives aren't supposed to work." I kind of laughed at how she explained that maybe being a trad wife isn't for her after all. Eventually, I just shut her down and told her that she picked this life, the life that she has always insisted is so superior to mine. Time to learn to deal with the problems that come with it. My parents can't watch her kids, because dad is at work on an oil pipeline, and mom is too old to be working the hours she is already working. Our other relatives don't live close enough to do it. She also asked my parents to move in with them, and my dad shut it down. He can't really stand her kids. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for canceling my wedding after discovering my ex-fiance's massive gambling debt? I was supposed to marry my ex-fiance this year. We had everything planned, like venue booked, invitations sent, and a future I thought was secure. But then I discovered a secret she had been hiding from me for years, that she's drowning in gambling debt. It started when I noticed a huge amount missing from our wedding fund. When I asked her about it, she got defensive and said it was for unexpected expenses. That didn't sit right with me, so I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I checked her personal finances. What I found made my stomach drop. She had racked up tens of thousands of dollars in gambling debt, maxed out credit cards, payday loans, even money borrowed from friends and family. She had been lying to me for years while secretly burning through cash on online gambling. And worst of all, she had no real plan to stop or pay it back. When I confronted her, she broke down, begged for forgiveness and swore she'd change. But the reality was crystal clear: if I married her, her financial disaster would become mine. Her debt wouldn't just be a problem, it would become our problem. I'd be legally tied to it, cleaning up her mess while she worked on it. I told her I couldn't do it. I'm not marrying someone who lied to me about something this massive. She accused me of abandoning her, saying that if I really loved her, I'd help her through it. But to me, love isn't about blindly taking on someone's self-inflicted financial ruin. Would I be the asshole for canceling our wedding because of this reason? Am I the asshole for not wanting to do anything for my ex's unborn child? I, 24, male, have a son 5 with my ex Haley, 24, female. We broke up 3 years ago and we share custody of our son. Our relationship was bad before we broke up. I could never do anything right. Haley wanted to stay home with our son, so I worked extra hard to provide for us, but then she accused me of trying to keep her at home all the time by staying at work so late. If I took our son for the day, she'd accuse me of trying to come between them. But then if I spent time with him on and off throughout the day, she'd accuse me of not being involved enough. She didn't like my cooking but complained when I didn't make more food. She also pissy when I'd make a packed lunch for her and when I made one just for me. She'd get pissy with me if I didn't want her to go out with her friends if I had work in the morning. She told me a single parent would deal with work and getting up with a kid so I could. But if she wanted to go somewhere in the morning, I'd better make sure I was there and waking up. It didn't matter that I was working crazy long hours so she didn't have to work. She told me to be a real man. She also hated that I wouldn't spend time with her family, but she always made shit up to them so they hated me. I could be feeding our son or playing with him and I was such an asshole for taking the baby from his mom according to the family. Or because I was playing with our son, I was a lazy bum who never worked and wanted their poor daughter/sister to work. I broke up with her because it wasn't healthy and only got worse. Her family told me they were glad she was finally done with a piece of shit like me and she could do so much better. A few months after we broke up, she started dating this other guy. Then she wanted me out of our son's life and she tried to file for sole custody, stating I didn't deserve to be a dad and I wasn't a good one. Her family all said I had poor character and would not be a good influence on my son. The judge told them she should have chosen a different father then, and our son had the right to a relationship with me. 50-50 was maintained. My ex had her boyfriend threaten me twice and I reported him to the cops both times, which got him a pretty strong warning the second time since I recorded him at my door. They broke up 7 months ago because my ex is pregnant and he doesn't want a kid. For the past month she's been asking me to take her son on as my own. She sent me scanned photos. She sent me a photo of our son in a Big Brother to be shirt. She sent baby photos of our son saying her son could be a mini version of him and how he deserves a dad like our son has. She told me it would be cruel to have one with a dad and the other rejected by his. Especially when it's the baby being rejected. I told her I wasn't going to raise her son and tie myself to her more. I told her she needs to find someone who'll be good to both of the boys and focus on that, or just be a good mom and trust her son will be fine without a dad. Her family tried to convince me, but whenever I see them and they try this, I ignore them and walk on without acknowledging them. The change since I was the worst influence ever when it was our son is startling. The other night my ex called me at 3 a.m. and I freaked out thinking something was wrong with our son. But instead she was crying and worrying about her son and saying he needs me. I made it clear I'm not doing anything for her second child and she's on her own with him. I told her he will never be my son or my family and she needs to let it go. Ever since that call her texts are angry instead of pleading, and we're back to me being the worst. Am I the asshole for my stance?
Am I the asshole for refusing to try on hijab? I, 26, female, am aware that this is an incredibly controversial topic, but I am at my wit's end in this situation, and my family and friends are overseas and mostly incapable of helping me due to inexperience and lack of awareness. I am in the UK for my PhD, and my roommate, 28, female, is Muslim. We usually get along very well, and I have been respectful and accommodating of her religious practices. I am very aware of the rising Islamophobia worldwide and try to advocate against it whenever I can. I feel the need to mention these things because they become relevant. I am an atheist myself. My roommate on numerous occasions has tried to discuss religion and theology with me. but I have quickly shut her down fearing that this may lead to a conflict due to our differences. After her several attempts of comparing our respective religious backgrounds, I firmly told her that religion is that one topic I don't want to remotely touch in a conversation with her, because I did not want an argumentative intense relationship with someone I share a roof with, and she understood and stopped. Everything was fine for months until she started following those drives on TikTok where people get a hijab makeover on the streets and look pretty, and thought of doing such a drive of her own. I gave her a thumbs up and moved on until she said she wanted to practice on me. I told her that I am not comfortable with this. She told me it is just a piece of cloth and it won't hurt to try because I may end up liking it. I firmly told her that while that is absolutely alright, I don't want to try it on, because I am simply not interested. This went on back and forth for some time until she told me that she is glad my Islamophobia is finally out in the open and I have exposed myself. I was shocked, and I asked her what made her think that I am an Islamophobe based on this one incident when I have gone above and beyond for her comfort. I abide by all her dietary restrictions in our shared kitchen, despite not having any such restriction of my own. Once I bought this beautiful statue of a Hindu goddess, not for worshipping purposes, but purely for aesthetic reasons, and she told me that she was uncomfortable with the violent figure. I immediately complied and packed it away without any argument. I profusely apologized to her, and I told her that I have nothing against hijab just because I don't want it on me. She stopped talking to me altogether after that. A couple of other people on the campus have reported that she is telling everyone how uncomfortable she is sharing a place with someone so hateful towards her religion. While I am hurt that I have lost a friend overnight, I am also extremely scared that the word may reach the university administration and they might take disciplinary action against me. I may lose my scholarship or may be thrown out of college altogether. I am an international student and this would mean my career will be completely over. I don't know what to do or how to explain my end of the story because no one seems interested. I have continuously and unconditionally apologized to her since the event, but nothing seems to work. Could anyone tell me where did I exactly go wrong and how can I fix this situation? Edit. I believe I need to clarify that I am from India and I belong from an untouchable Dalit caste. I don't have any interest of pandering to racial and religious hegemonies because it will end up working against my interests and of the numerous brilliant Dalit students who have academic aspirations. Edit 2. She wanted me to be a model for hijab trials because she wants to make social media content like hijab transformation videos. I see that a lot of people here don't know about them. Basically, hijabi influencers have this drive/campaign of sorts where they ask random women on the streets if they would like a hijab makeover and put hijab and modest clothes on them. There is nothing coercive in this. You can check Bara Bolat for such content and you will get the idea. I personally didn't want to participate in this because of the no religious stuff between us boundary that I had established with my roommate, and I was concerned that this may once again lead to religious debates like she used to attempt in the past.
Am I the asshole for not sharing my achievements with my family because I've been easy kid without problems who's easy to overlook and I want them to take the interest? I, 16, male, am the youngest in my family. I have an older brother Shane, 22, and two older sisters Elle, 19, and Darcy, 18. My older sisters have autism and developmental delays and always required a ton of extra attention. Shane was the star of the family for a long time. He was the oldest and the one everyone was so proud of because he was really gifted academically and helped out a lot at home. But it all got to Shane eventually and he ended up really mentally ill. He spent some time in residential treatment and our parents worried about him maybe ending his life because of how sick he was. So then the attention he needed was greater than before. Through all of that I was just easy. I had no special needs or delays or mental illnesses that required more attention and I was brushed aside more. Even though I'm hurt, I'm not really angry. I used to try and get some of the attention for myself, but my parents just couldn't and my siblings had their own shit. But even before Shane got sick his focus was more on helping my parents with our sisters and he was never really there to help me or anything. I slipped through the cracks a lot basically and I was easy to forget or overlook. I kept my head down and spent a lot of time at my best friend's house. His parents took us to these free dance classes to have some fun and I found a talent in dance. It was suggested I try to go somewhere in dance and enroll in serious classes, but I knew my parents didn't have the capacity for me. I went to my grandparents and they encouraged me to go to my parents first, so I tried, but they were having a really bad day. In the end my grandparents got me signed up for dance classes and I've been going for years now. I won an award in December in a local competition. It wasn't anything huge, but it wasn't my first award either. Only my parents found out about it in January because photos from the event came up on my mom's timeline and I guess they saw me in two of the photos. They asked me how long I'd been doing dance and why I never told them I was winning awards. I told them they were too busy and I'd been in dance for years and that my grandparents signed me up for the lessons and paid for them. My parents told Shane and then the three of them asked why I kept it from them. I told them I was so easy to overlook because of everything and it made me sad and I knew it wasn't their fault exactly but I wanted them to take an interest. I brought up times when I was younger and I'd look for some attention and nobody had the ability to give it to me. I said I do get it. But I didn't want to be the kid who begs for attention. So I just didn't tell them. I didn't want to get their attention just for that, and if that was why I got it, I wanted them to at least notice and not need me to tell them. They're pretty angry with me. They said if I really understood I'd tell them instead of letting the problem grow. My dad said they did their best and parents weren't perfect and all I had to do was speak up until I got them on a better day or moment. It frustrated me, but I know they're frustrated and angry too. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for asking my husband not to walk around all nude because it makes my daughter uncomfortable? So, I have a 14-year-old daughter, and my husband has 2 sons, who are 10. My daughter's dad passed away when she was just 2, and my stepson's mom died when they were around 5. My husband was pretty used to walking around the house naked after showering, since it was just boys around. But now there's me and my daughter, who again is a teenager. My daughter leaves her door open because of something that happened when she was younger. We had to evacuate and her door got stuck, so she's a bit traumatized by it. Also, my husband has this habit of walking out of the bathroom naked after taking a shower, just strolling to the bedroom all chill while scrolling on his phone. My daughter came to me the other day, complaining that she doesn't want to see him like that. I told my husband about it, and he was like, okay, but then he got annoyed with my daughter for bringing it up instead of just letting it go. I explained that she thinks seeing her stepfather naked is really disrespectful to both of them, and she values his privacy. He suggested she just start closing her door, even though he knows about her trauma, and then he said to get her into therapy. She's already in therapy and is actually getting better at shutting the door when she changes. He got all mad, saying I was choosing her over him. We've been going back and forth for like 3 days about the same thing, which is why I'm here. My daughter said she could just handle it because she hates hearing us argue. Am I the asshole for not wanting to talk to my friends and family about their weight loss? I lost 140 pounds, and now suddenly I seem to be the go-to person for weight loss advice. But the thing is, I had weight loss surgery, and they all know this. I'm extremely open about it. I'm super happy my friends and family are taking steps to lose weight. I'm more than happy to be their cheerleader. I will support them, celebrate their milestones, and help them stay accountable. But I don't have any advice. I had surgery. I have strong doubts obesity can be cured without surgery/medication for the majority of people. But people asking me for advice is relentless. I've said multiple times to all the same people that I support them and I'll cheer them on, but I can't deal with giving advice. They still ask. I'm now having the opposite problem where after having my gallbladder removed, I have digestive problems and I'm struggling to maintain my weight. It's still dropping rapidly despite being at my goal, and it's causing me a lot of stress, and stress compounds my digestive problems. I really need to not be thinking about food and just eating whatever calories I can, but them asking me for advice is not helping. I've said this, and I feel I'm being ignored. One friend in particular still continues to send me her MyFitnessPal screenshots asking for advice on macros and portion sizes. I'm at the point where I think I'm going to have to say I cannot and will not talk to people about weight at all. I don't think I'm the asshole here, but also, I think I'm coming across as the friend who got skinny and now doesn't care about supporting her friends/family in their own journeys. Because it seems they need support in the form of advice, not just being happy for them, and I'm willfully ignoring the way they need their support to be structured.
Am I the asshole? We insisted we will pay for my cousin's 17 girlfriend's 19 expenses as long as she agrees to a D&A test when the baby is born. I've been my cousins, Sam and Olivia, legal guardian for about 8 years since their parents left our country. They send money for their expenses monthly and the plan is to have them relocate when they have to go to the university. As a side note, I had the sex talk with them when they were 13 and 15. I try to be as sex positive as possible and we have a specific box with condoms in it. It has a hole at the top and I just restock it on a monthly basis. I've had several talks with them on safe sex and always checking the condoms before and after they use it for holes or leaks. Sam been in a relationship for about 4 months with a girl, and in our neighborhood. Sometime this week he tells me she's pregnant and her parents want to meet up with me. I asked him over and over if he's sure and whether he used condoms, checked it like I told him to before and after, and he said he did, but she somehow got pregnant. Obviously I was suspicious, but it's already happened and there's nothing we can do about it. I told his parents and they gave me the go-ahead to meet his parents and said they'll pay for all her expenses as long as they agree to do a D&A test. And then her parents come over to talk and it goes okay for a while until I tell them we'll be running a D&A test when the baby is born. We can't go for the prenatal paternity test since it's not that urgent, but the moment the baby is born it'll have to be done. They got upset for insinuating their daughter slept with someone else. They accuse of trying to shirk our responsibilities and the whole situation gets out of hand. I told them his parents have agreed to pay for all her expenses and will continue to do so if the baby is proven to be his after the baby is born. In our country prenatal care is free so they don't have to worry about healthcare expenses. They called us a lot of choice words and left without any resolution. The only other people I discussed this with are my partner and my mom. They both agree, but my mom says maybe I could have just kept that part to myself and gotten the test done after the baby was done without telling them. Now my cousin feels horrible because and is not talking to him. Are we the asshole? Am I the asshole for telling my brother's fiancé the real reason he won't let her invite her family to their wedding? My brother, 32 male, is engaged to his fiancée, 30 female, and their wedding is in a few months. Everything was going fine until she mentioned wanting to invite her side of the family. My brother immediately shut it down, saying it would ruin the wedding. She was devastated. For context, her family is lower income, and she's the only one in her family who went to college and built a successful career. Our family is pretty well off, and my brother has always been obsessed with keeping up appearances. I thought he was just being shallow, but then I found out the real reason. A few weeks ago, at a family gathering, I overheard my brother talking to our parents. He admitted he doesn't want her family at the wedding because they're embarrassing and look like they came from a trailer park. He even joked that her dad looks like he'd crawled out of a Walmart clearance bin. I was disgusted. His fiancée later asked me if I knew why he was so against inviting her family. I tried to dodge the question, but she was genuinely heartbroken and kept pressing me. I finally told her the truth. She went silent, thanked me, and left. Now, everything has exploded. She confronted him, called him classist, and is considering calling off the wedding. My brother is furious and says I ruined his life by meddling. Our parents are on his side, saying I should have kept my mouth shut. I feel like she had a right to know, but now I'm wondering, am I the asshole for telling her?
Am I the asshole for telling my fiancé he doesn't have my back when he told a humiliating story about me in front of his entire family? A long time ago, back when low-rise jeans were popular, my boyfriend and I ran into Walmart for some things. I had to get some items on the lower shelf, so I hitched my pants up as high as I could and bent down. I had to grab a few things, and I guess in that time a mother and small son came down the aisle and stood behind me. I guess that kid's face was like 12-inch from my butt crack. Guess the mom noticed and wasn't too happy. Those jeans got thrown out the next day and never bought a pair of low-rise jeans again. It's been 14 years. We were invited over to his sister's family's house for the Super Bowl. We're having a great time, and if a sudden he decides it's a great time to tell that story in front of his entire family and his sister's new husband's family. Not only that, but tells it using descriptive like disgusting and made me look just about as trashy as possible, and then said that I knew it was happening and didn't care and told him to shut up when he told me they were there, which never happened. In the car, he goes, "Are you mad?" I told him that he's demonstrated that he's someone who doesn't have their partner's back. I told him that was a betrayal, because he knew that story was embarrassing. He said that because he thinks I have no reason to be embarrassed, that he's done nothing wrong, and it's crazy of me to say he doesn't have my back. I feel like he just wanted laughs and attention, and he didn't care at all that it came at my expense. One big reason why I feel like he doesn't have my back, he decided to knowingly break the law because again, he thought he knew better, and got arrested and spent 7 months in prison, leaving me holding a huge bag of shit and needing to do everything on my own during that time, including pay all our bills. He's been out for about a year. During that time I bought us a house. By myself. For 12 years he didn't have his license, so I did all our driving. If I got a flat or something, I had to call my parents. My parents had my back while he was gone, too. So if this is just leftover resentment from all that, or if I actually do have a legit reason to feel hurt/betrayed. I just feel like after every sacrifice I've made for us entitles me to what I would consider to be adequate treatment from him. Am I overthinking this? Am I the asshole for not forgiving my fiancé for his drunken slip-up before our wedding? I called off my wedding. My fiancé and I have been together for 5 years and were supposed to get married in just 2 weeks. Everything was planned, like the venue, the dress, the guests flying in from out of town. I was so excited to start our lives together. Then, his bachelor party happened. I wasn't the type to put strict rules on bachelor/bachelorette parties. I trusted him. His best man organized a weekend getaway in Vegas with his close friends. I figured it would be the usual drinking, partying, and dumb stories I'd hear about later. Instead, when he came home, he acted off. Avoiding eye contact, being extra affectionate, he was trying to make up for something. My gut told me something was wrong. I asked him if anything happened, and at first, he said no. But after a few days of me pressing him, he finally admitted that he had slept with a stripper at his party. He claimed he was blacked out drunk and didn't mean to cheat. His exact words were, "It wasn't intentional. I barely remember it happening. The guys told me she came onto me, and I was too drunk to stop it." I was horrified. He cheated on me, and instead of taking full responsibility, he blamed the alcohol and the situation. His friends backed him up, saying it was just a stupid mistake, it meant nothing, and that a lot of guys mess up at their bachelor party. Even my future mother-in-law told me to consider forgiving him because it was a one-time thing and doesn't define your relationship. But I can't just brush this off. This wasn't a minor mistake. I feel this was betrayal. If this is how he acts when he's drunk and surrounded by bad influences, what's stopping it from happening again? Marriage is supposed to be about trust, and now, I don't know if I can ever trust him the same way. I told him the wedding was off. He broke down, begged me to reconsider, and swore it would never happen again. He even offered to go to therapy or do whatever it took to prove he was sorry. But to me, the damage was done. I just want to know if am I the asshole for not forgiving my fiancé for his drunken slip-up before our wedding and decided to move on? Am I the asshole for not allowing my son to go to his paternal grandparents' anniversary barbecue because his father's stepchildren will be there? I, 33, female, have a 7-year-old son with my ex, 35, male. Almost a year ago, I was given full custody of our son and my ex was awarded supervised visitation. The reason for this was the abuse our son was suffering at the hands of his father's stepchildren, 12 and 13. This was a very difficult battle to win. It started 3 years ago when my son came home from his father's house and my ex announced he'd gotten remarried over the weekend and he wanted me to pay half toward the clothes he bought our son for the wedding because they got ruined. Of course I didn't pay half, but I did ask why he expected me to pay and why the clothes were ruined. He said he felt like we should split the cost of big items like that. Then he refused to answer how they got ruined. Later that evening, when I was bathing my son, I noticed some bruises on him and it made me suspicious. He mentioned his arms hurt and that the big kids had done it. A few weeks later, my ex called me and asked me to come and calm our son down. He said our son was hysterical and he had been unable to calm him. When I got to his house, our son was still crying and wanted to come home with me. My ex's wife said one of her kids had accidentally stepped in my son's foot and my son got scared. But I could hear one of her kids in the background calling my son names and saying they wanted to shut him up. Over time, things got worse. There were more bruises and more days where my son would get very upset at his dad's house. I spoke to my ex who said his stepkids were taking it bad that their mom had remarried and that they had lost their dad only 4 years prior and it was difficult for them. He said he and our son weren't their favorite people. But he said it wasn't a big deal. I decided to document these incidents and injuries anyway because it appeared to me my ex was not concerned and our son could be at risk in his home. As my son got bigger, he'd verbalize more and more about what was going on. The stepkids treated him like shit and were not embarrassed or ashamed to be rough with him. He'd get pushed and grabbed and a lot of these accidents were happening. I put in a few calls to CPS and they started to offer resources. It pissed off my ex, but I was worried for my son. The verbal incidents weren't on CPS's radar really, but the physical stuff they also documented and some of my ex's family had witnessed things and a few even sent me rundowns about what happened. The incident that brought us to me getting full custody was my ex and his wife leaving the 3 kids home alone for hours together and the stepkids dragged my son out of the house and locked him in the garage on his own where all the dangerous tools were held. My ex tried to fight for his right to retain custody, but CPS and the judge agreed it was not safe for our son. The reason he only gets supervised visits is his stepkids are not allowed around my son. My ex's parents are celebrating their wedding anniversary next month and they want my son there. But my ex and his family are invited and will be attending. I told them I could let them do something with him another time, but if the stepkids are there, my son won't be. They, along with my ex's oldest brother, feel like I'm being unfair and too strict and not trusting them to keep my son safe. But he wasn't in the past. I know that for a fact. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for pretending to think beans and chili are woke, to prank my cousin who is obsessed with being anti-woke and who loves chili? My cousin is known for making chili. And he's good at it. He makes his own chili flakes from his secret combination of various dried chilies. It has a very nice kick. It's like the perfect amount of spice, it's hot but not too hot. He also always adds kidney beans. Not canned beans either. Anyways, for the past 2 or 3 years my cousin has become obsessed with all this bullshit about what is or isn't woke and how woke things are the end of the world. He's always been a good dude, so I don't know what his bag is, but he is completely obsessed. It's annoying. So the other weekend I was at his place and he was making his famous chili. So I got the idea for a little prank. I was like, I'm surprised you still put beans in your chili. He was like, why? I was like, beans in chili are so woke. Everyone is saying so. He was like, what do you mean? And he was like genuinely concerned. As if this was something serious. I said something like, yeah, beans in chili are woke. The original conservative Texans who made chili only used meat and chili. San Francisco liberals started adding beans to chili in the 60s because so many hippies were vegetarian. Now all the woke scientists are saying beans are a better protein source than meat. He didn't say anything to that. I kind of just assumed he'd know I was fucking with him and get the joke. We have always fucked around with each other in jokes about and all. But he was quiet all dinner. Just yesterday I was back again at his place and he was making his chili again. There were no beans. It was a totally different chili. This guy has been making his chili with beans for like 15 years. I was like, what's up? Where's the beans? He was like, I don't fuck with that woke shit. I was like, what? He was like, beans in chili are woke. Even you know that. Everyone else was like, what? Because, what? I was like, dude, I was just fucking with you. He got really angry. He dumped his chili in the sink and told everyone to go home. I thought he was pranking me back or something, but he was serious. The dude totally lost it. He texted me later and said this exact thing. I researched this online and it turns out you really were lying to me. Beans are not woke. How could you do this? We went back and forth for a bit. His position is, even though we have historically pranked each other, I went too far, that I betrayed him, that I made him question his chili. I tried to ask him if this at all made him think he cared too much about woke. What if beans in chili was woke? So what? He ignored that and demanded I apologize. Did I take this too far?
Am I the asshole for telling my dad I didn't want him or the woman he replaced my mom with to pretend to honor her on the 20th anniversary of her death? My brother, 28, male, and I, 26, female, lost our mom 20 years ago. We, along with my brother's wife and my boyfriend, took the day to honor our mom. The day never passes without something from either of us, but 20 years was something we wanted to mark with a little more. Her death is still painful for us. We did not include our dad or stepfamily. They never joined before. Well, Dad used to. But it's been 11 or more years now since he did anything to honor our mom. My dad wasn't happy when he found out we'd done something without him, and his wife felt the same. They called my brother and me several times to complain about the secrecy and how we left them out of something important. For the last 14 years, my dad has described his wife as the love of his life. He also stated on multiple occasions that he was never as in love with anyone, and falling for her made him realize his feelings for others were never close. While he's allowed that it stings us, the kids he had with his first wife, who died. He used to say he loved Mom. He hasn't in years. He removed all traces of her eventually, and like I said, he no longer honored her memory on her birthday or her anniversary. He has also stated he'd changed nothing about his life, because it worked out just the way it was supposed to in the end. Comments like that, and his wife comments that we spoke about our mom too much or had too many photos of her, made us distant from them. They have 2 kids together also, and that always made things more awkward, because they have commented on how unhappy my brother and I look when Dad is making his comments about his wife, and they can't see it from our perspective. During one of Dad's phone calls to me where he was complaining, he said he'd been married to my mom for 10 years, and they had me and my brother together, and he should be allowed to join us on such a big anniversary. It pissed me off, and I told him I didn't want him or the woman he replaced her with to pretend they were honoring her. I said he hadn't honored her in years and had made it very clear he didn't give a fuck about her anymore, with all those comments about his wife being the love of his life and how he wouldn't wish Mom was alive because it made him happier long term. He told me it was such an uncharitable outlook. I asked him to consider how the kids of wife number 1 feel when he makes those kinds of comments. I said he would never convince me that he didn't replace her and essentially downgrade her to a past mistake of his. He went on a rant to my brother after we spoke, and my brother told him he felt the same. He said it was exactly how we took it and always would. My dad and his wife are claiming my comments were cruel and that it shows a lack of appreciation for what she did to bring him back to life after losing Mom. She said it hurt to realize we have so little love or appreciation for her that we can't see his comments in the positive. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for leaving my own birthday dinner because my girlfriend turned it into a proposal for herself? I, 28, male, had my birthday dinner last weekend, and my girlfriend, Sarah, 27, female, offered to plan it. I was excited because I usually keep things low-key, but she said she wanted to make it special. She booked a nice restaurant and invited close friends and family. Everything was going great until it was time for dessert. The waiter brought out a cake, but instead of my name, it said, "Will you marry me, Sarah?" I was completely blindsided. Sarah got all teary-eyed, turned to me, and said, "Well, this is the best surprise ever, right?" Everyone around us started clapping, and her friends were filming. I just sat there, stunned. She took my silence as hesitation and started going on about how she knew I wasn't big on grand gestures, but she couldn't wait anymore, so she took matters into her own hands. At that moment, I stood up and said, "This is my birthday. If you wanted a proposal, you should have talked to me about it first." Then I grabbed my stuff and walked out. Sarah was mortified, and her friends blew up my phone, calling me an asshole for embarrassing her and ruining the night. She even said I humiliated her when she was just trying to do something romantic. Now, my family is split. Some say I should have just gone along with it for the night, while others think she crossed a major boundary. So, am I the asshole for leaving my own birthday dinner because my girlfriend hijacked it for a proposal?
If you like this video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you for your support.